You know, back in the late 50s and the 60s, there was many tombs uncovered. In particular, there's a fellow called Joe Taylor, and you can look it up on the internet. He's the curator of a fossil museum in Texas, USA. Now, this fellow dug up many tombs of giants. Now, there's something you've got to realise. Over the last 50 years, the scientific world and the Christian world, together with the media, have done everything in their power to suppress the findings of these giant human beings. There is literally hundreds of locations all over the world where they've found the fossils and the bones and the tombs of these giant people, and they don't want you to know about it, and you would think that the media would swamp you to get a story about it. Well, that's not the way it happens, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But here are some of the different locations and different skeletons that you're looking at on the screen while I'm talking to you, and let's have a look at some of them together and see if they're a fraud, because there's people that call these a fraud. They say that somebody got their hand into the computer and they made up these things. Well, I'll tell you something. I'm a graphic artist, and I can tell you that these are good, honest, true, realistic photographs of sightings of archaeological diggings and findings all over the world. Now, if you look at this next clip, you'll see that I took the person that's standing at the side of the grave and I superimposed him in that white patch over the top of the skeletons to give you an idea of how big that skeleton would have been in real life. And as you can see, this skeleton of this human being would have stood at least 19, 20 feet tall. No doubt about that. Now that the truth is out and there's so many findings, they can't keep covering up the facts. Here's a skeleton that's on public display, and as you can see, it's well over 25 or more feet tall. Now, in this archaeological diggings, as you can see, there's over 8 people working on the diggings, and you can see how small the people are in relation to the skeleton that they have found. Now, you can see the size of this skeleton and the head. These skeletons, these people, these human beings would have been 30 foot tall. They are enormous giants, and these are real. They were on this earth. Now, I said to you before that I will tell you why the scientific world and the Christian world, the religious world, those who don't believe in God world, those who don't believe in creation world, those believing in evolution world, there's a reason now coming up in the face of everybody that they better have another look at whether God did exist. You see, these people have had something quite what they would say normal to believe in over the last couple of 100 years. If this evidence was to come out in the face of what books are in the libraries today, they'd have to burn every book, because every book has failed to give you, from the scientific world, from the paleontologists, from the archaeological world, from the Christian world, from the churches, the religion world, they've failed to give you the truth. And why is that? Well, you can go back into all the writings that you want to. You can go back to the Vedas. Well, I don't care what book you go to. But the Bible, the Old Testament in Genesis chapter 6, did tell you what was going on, and I'm going to put that up on the screen. But in the meantime, also, there's another point that I'm going to show you as we go through this film report. Dinosaurs. Yeah. They told you that they were on the earth 150, 200 million years ago. How did they know that? Carbon dating. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something. Carbon dating is also a lie. And 150 million years ago, the dinosaurs were not on this earth, because you know why? They will also tell you that dinosaurs and man did not coexist together. There's another lie. This evidence now has shown the world that both dinosaurs and the skeletons of giant human beings from 15 to 25 feet tall were living on the earth at the same time. So you can see now why the scientists will run for cover when you show them this evidence, and that's one of the reasons why you won't see it on the front page of your local newspaper, and you won't see it on the television news tonight. So come with me on the rest of this report. Now you're looking on the screen at Dolly the sheep. Dolly the sheep and thousands more are made in a test tube. So mankind, you would say today, they're pretty smart. But if you believed in God and you believed in creation, then you would realize that man would have been a lot smarter back at the time of creation than they are today. And there's no doubt that they were playing around with hybridization and crossing over animals and creatures back there in the beginning. But the scientific world would like you to think that prehistoric man were a lot of dodos, a lot of idiots, didn't know anything, didn't know how to do anything. They'd like you to think that they were all stupid. Well, I can tell you something. If you did believe in God, you'd realize that that would be impossible. But you see, they don't believe in God and they don't want you to believe in God. But we're showing you some things here which are the truth. This is not a made-up story. And as I said before, when I was breeding birds and animals before to try and get a Lutino, we realized that you'd end up with a mutant if you kept on crossing over certain species within the species. So now look at some of these dinosaur species. They've never found any babies. They've never found any juveniles. They've never opened up eggs and found them to hold any baby chicks. So ask the question, were they endothermic, or were they hot-blooded or cold-blooded? And did they lay eggs? Or did a 20-ton something or other sit on eggs to incubate them? Ask the question. Now your pastors, your rabbis, you show them this evidence and they're going to say that you're cuckoo, because that's not what they teach, and they don't want you to know the truth about what did happen back at the time of creation. You can go into Wikipedia and you can get a lot more evidence than this, but I'm going to read you a couple of them. There was a 15-foot human skeleton found in southeast Turkey in late 1950s in the Euphrates Valley during road construction. There was, in Rome, Maximus Thrax Caesar. There was a 9'6" skeleton. In the Bible, you see it talks about Goliath, and it is alleged that Goliath was 10 foot tall. That's up past the guttering. King Og, spoken of in Deuteronomy, it says that he was 12 feet tall, 12 to 14 feet tall. You're looking at a human skeleton found in 1577 AD under an oak tree, which was 19 feet 6 inches tall. You didn't read about that in the front page of the newspaper, did you? There was a 23-foot tall skeleton found in 1456 AD beside a river in France. There was a 25-foot 6 skeleton found in the year 1613 AD near Clermont in France, and that was claimed to be the tallest that they'd found at that particular time. Now, it's almost beyond belief, beyond comprehensive, that you could believe that human beings were this big, this tall. But this is no made-up story. This is a fact. This is true. So it's about time you come and you have a look at what God did, what happened at creation. Now, you can continue to believe the box of lies of what the scientific world is telling you, Darwinism, evolution. You can continue to believe that, but it doesn't stack up with the evidence and the proof that there's been documented all over the world, and what I'm giving to you now. So when it comes to the scientific world telling you the truth, have a look at something again for yourself. The CO2 carbon dioxide being a greenhouse gas is a lie. And I've given you a lot of reports on this. CO2 is not only essential, and I said essential, it's very necessary for the photosynthesis. And that's a process for light energy to be converted into chemical energy using living organisms and plants. That's right. And if you could measure it, CO2 in the atmosphere, in the air, never goes above 0.038%. It's such an infinitesimal amount you can hardly measure it. Not only that, it's not up high because it is heavier. It's the heaviest component of gas in the air. It's heavier than oxygen, and it will sink to the bottom, and that's where it's got to be. It's down where the plants grow. So these scientific people that you believe in have been lying to you about God, lying to you about creation, lying to you and giving you a box of lies about evolution. And today they're having the same fun and games with you. The same satanic forces are giving you a box of lies so that they can get ETS, Emissions Trading Scheme, tax you for breathing because they say that the CO2 is making a hole in the ozone level. They're the ones that are making the hole in the ozone level with HAARP. Look it up. HAARP and chemtrails. All of the things that everybody says, oh no, we don't talk about that because it's a conspiracy. Well, I can assure you, HAARP is not a conspiracy. It's real. And it is a secret weapon of the military and the CIA. And the same scientific people under the same control today that sold you a box of lies on what I've just shown you here. Today, if you don't realise it, they are making the climate change. That's right. Man-made climate change. So that they can prove to you that there is a climate change. And when they do that, they will dupe your governments into falling in line to give them the emissions trading scheme, the so-called tax on carbon. So the men, they were smart, all right. They were too smart. They outsmarted themselves. This is what it says in Genesis 6. Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of anybody they chose. And Yahweh said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterwards. Anakim, some Bibles call it the Nephilim. When the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them, those were referred to as the mighty, renowned men of old. In other words, they were human and angel hybrids. Now, the Bible tells you that there was a war in the heavenly hosts. The bad angels, the good angels. So there was a war. And the bad angels grouped together, and it appears that there is going to be a judgment day when they will be totally wiped out, and so will the wickedness of men. And I gave everybody a report on the Jeremiah 31:31, and I would urge you to have a look at that, because that's talking about the last days. It's talking about what will happen on God's judgment day, a day that nobody believes will ever happen because they don't even believe that God exists. But I can assure you it will happen. You know, the good book says that there was a flood by the hand of God to destroy all of the misfits, the horrible monstrosities that mankind was responsible for making. Yahweh God got rid of it all. You know, the satanic forces, they can't create anything, but they can always mess up what God created. And everything that God created for the ecosystem is perfectly made for a perfect purpose.